At number 10, we have the saber-toothed tiger. Everyone knows this guy. I mean, he's one of the main characters in the Ice Age movies, by far one of the most famous extinct animals ever. And they weren't something you want your dog to play around with in the backyard unless you want to traumatize yourself. These things were big, with the larger ones being around 8 feet long and clocking in at 660 pounds. Holy crap. Could you imagine this thing chasing you down? You would be done for. You got no chance. And those amazing fangs that pop out of their head, they're around 7 to 12 inches long. Oh my god. This thing would bite down on you and pierce you like a stuffed pig. There would be blood everywhere. Literally, the difference in power between you and a saber-toothed tiger is like you versus a very cute duck. Even after saying all that, I think if these things were still alive, Mike Tyson would own one and the tiger would understand Mike Tyson as the alpha, because that's just Mike Tyson. That's the way it is. At number 9, we have the T-Rex. Okay, we got another classic. We're going classic after classic for this list. I think dinosaurs count as animals. I'm not sure what the science is on that, but I also don't care. I'm putting it on the list. And I barely need to tell you anything about the T-Rex. We all know what this guy is, and we know that if they were still around, running around, stepping on Subarus, traffic would be insane. They would probably ruin all our lives. The T-Rex weighed around 15,000 kilograms. That's over 30,000 pounds, and it was around 6 meters tall and 12 meters long. The skull alone was massive. This thing's dome was 5 feet long. It was bigger than that guy who got pissed off in that New York bakery.
Go ahead and attack me, Jake.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I just wanted bagels.
I'm never getting tired of that clip. I'm gonna put in so many videos. I want you guys to know that. Also, this thing could eat 500 pounds of meat in a single bite. Yeah, I know they look cool, and in theory Jurassic Park would be fun, but I'm happy that this massive monster is bones now. At number 8, we have Caprisuchus. Okay, so now we're getting into the weird stuff. The Caprisuchus was basically a giant alligator with long legs. So you know how alligators and crocodiles are scary, but not really scary because they're kind of slow and lumbering? Well, imagine if you slapped some Usain Bolt legs on the bad boy and made them way bigger. Well, now you got a croc that can zip around like an Uber Eats guy trying to put his kids through college. And its jaw is big enough to swallow up their student debt. And legend says they were also wonderful dancers. At number 7, we have Gigantopithecus. Also known as Big Monkey Man among scientists, this thing is basically Bigfoot. It's related to orangutans, so picture a ginger Bigfoot that is 3 meters tall and has a right hook that can cave your head in. These dudes were insanely strong. They had the relative strength to chimps, meaning you know how strong a chimp is for how small it is. Well, imagine a chimp that was 9 feet tall and weighed 1,200 pounds and had the strength to match. It could probably bench press 2 Honda Civics and the entire unmarked VHS collection in R. Kelly's house. That's a lot of weight. Yo, killing me with this! It's unknown what made this guy disappear, but a lot of people think it's because they started getting hunted by humans. We might have been hunting them for food, or it might have been just foresight on the side of our ancestors. If we let these guys evolve alongside with us, they would be dominating all the sports right now. At number 6, we have Gorgonops. So I'm just learning this now, but they were terrifying creatures even before the dinosaurs. I'm not surprised I didn't know this. I'm not a very bright person. The only things I really know about are video games and how to make very nice pancakes. Those are my only 2 skills. Beyond that, I'm useless. But this thing was king of the world way before the dinos were even a thing. Gorgonops holds the title for having one of the best names of all time and being one of the most dominant apex predators ever. It was kicking around 260 million years ago. It kinda looks like a cross between a bear and a lion and a crocodile, and it had massive teeth that it would use to destroy all its prey. Nothing stood a chance against Gorgonops. Y'all afraid of sharks? Well, you're gonna love this next one. At the number 5 spot, we got Megalodon. This is one of the biggest sharks that we know ever existed. It's massive, and its heart was powered by orphan blood. These things were huge, dude. Some Megalodons would grow up to 60 feet long. That's bigger than the Hollywood sign. If you're caught in open water with this thing, it would be like popping a juicy zit on your back. You'd explode into blood in no time. The crazy thing about this one is that there are Megalodon truthers out there that think this thing still exists. They believe hidden away in the deep somewhere are Megalodons that roam, waiting to strike back and ruin everyone's summer vacation. Think about that next time you're going out for a nice little swim. At number 4 we have Pulmonoscorpius. Okay, this one by far is one of the grossest ones we've had on the list so far. This thing is a scorpion, except it was 3 feet long. Ugh. Yeah, no thanks dude, it's disgusting. And it has all the regular things that scorpions have. Big ass claws, 8 gross legs, a bunch of nasty eyes, a tail that's full of venom that can kill you in a very painful fashion. Yeah, this one's a big no thank you for me. It would take a lot more than a can of Raid to kill one of these things. Could you imagine one of these things working its way into your home? I wouldn't know if I'm supposed to kill it or adopt it. It's basically like a super gross dog. I feel like everyone watching this video is like, oh, those things would have been gross. And everyone in Australia is like, oh, gimbal gambles? We have those things every winter. At number 3 we have the Titanoboa, a big old snaky thing that's basically a giant boa constrictor, like massive, like 60 feet long, could swallow a car whole, and this thing still operates like a regular boa. It would crush its prey to death. What's the PSI on this thing, dude? It would have been crazy. It probably has enough grip strength to turn a piece of coal into a diamond and then crush that diamond into dust. It was super jacked. Like a giant flexible bicep waiting to squish things into a nice bite-sized package. This guy weighed around 2,000 pounds, bro. 2,000. If you're afraid of snakes, you probably already turned this video off, but you could imagine getting crushed by this thing. You wouldn't stand a chance. Your head would fly off like when you put Mentos in a Diet Coke. At number 2 we have a Theropleura. Yeah, we're keeping it gross with some more bugs. A Theropleura is a 10-foot long centipede that might have been too big and gross to have many predators. Imagine a centipede that is so big no one messes with it. It roams around freely with no laws, doing whatever it wants, not afraid of anything. That sounds like a nightmare come to life. These things have massive pincers for eating and could easily slice through your flesh. If it was a battle between one of these big, multi-legged freaks and John Bones Jones, I might take the bug. I'm just glad I live in a time where only house centipedes are a few inches long. If I came home to one of these things, I would probably have to put it on the lease. At number 1, we have terror birds. So picture an ostrich but bigger, which is kind of the theme of the whole list. Everything used to be bigger back then. And then we came around and everyone had to make room. Yeah, that's the kind of things we are. Humans, we take up space. So these things are like an ostrich, but they're 9 feet tall and they have razor sharp claws on their feet that they would use to easily slice into their prey's flesh. These terror birds would weigh around 340 pounds. That's a big ass bird, dude. And they could move at around 30 miles per hour. And to top it all off, they were carnivores. That's great. Thought that they would commonly prey on prehistoric versions of horses. These dudes would slash Seabiscuit's throat in a second and not even think twice about it. I'm not surprised at all that these things existed. We all know how mean a goose is. For sure its ancestors were these monstrosities running around killing everything. That's what every goose wishes it could do today.
Number 10, the woolly mammoth. It was announced that not long ago that a team of scientists and entrepreneurs announced they were trying to bring back the woolly mammoth back to life. No zoo will ever be the same again, or smell the same for that matter. A company called Colossal is responsible for this colossal project. The brilliant team of scientists are planning to bring the woolly mammoth back to life by creating an elephant embryo made of mammoth genomes. Pretty cool. Have you ever seen Jurassic Park? I feel like they haven't seen Jurassic Park. It's kind of a bad idea. The last mammoth to ever live was 7,500 years ago, but what if we had these hairy Goliaths back again today? The Siberian tundra thousands of years ago was once full of woolly mammoths, but climate change began to slow them down. It also didn't help that humans needed food. And these guys could surely feed a family of 4. Mammoths also provided warmth, which was perfect for early humans. It's pretty cold out there. Genetics company Colossal raised over $15 million to try and bring this animal back to life. But should they?
Number 9, the woolly rhinoceros. Yeah, since we're on the woolly train, what better time to mention this hairy beast? The woolly rhino. I oddly want to pet him. Just one brush. Once upon a time, these rhinos were common throughout Europe and Asia. They were well prepared for the cold tundra. They had a thick blanket of fur, just like the old woolly mammoth. So no ice age will stop this rhino. I mean, it didn't help them out, but it was mostly humans needing food and warmth that led to their extinction. But cut to 14,000 years later, we're trying to apologize. We're trying to make it up to them by bringing them back to life. Hi, you exist now. Isn't that great? To a world that's even more harsh. Yeah, remember when it was cold? Well, now it's really warm. Good game, rhinos. Might want to go get a haircut. The same company responsible for the Mammoth Project is also trying to bring back this hairy boy. I mean, I'm all for science, don't get me wrong, but if these species died off that long ago, will highways help? Probably not.
Number 8, the heath hen. It's interesting, I don't know anything about that. Here we go. Finally something that isn't the size of a minivan. I'm already excited. The heath van we lost quite recently actually, which of course is sad. We're losing birds rapidly, especially in North America. Our prairies are shrinking and they're being converted to agriculture. By 1870, the only remaining heath hens were protected in a vineyard, or a vineyard. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. But sadly, when 1932 rolled around, those fluffy dudes were no more. Also, Thanksgiving dinners didn't help. I get hungry sometimes. Yeah, we ate another animal to extinction. I'm seeing a pattern here. However, all hope is not lost for the heath hens, hence the title of this list. A company called Revive and Restore, good name, they're trying to get these hens back to the sky rather than back on our plates. They've been working with the community since 2014 with some scientific help from the prairie chicken.
Number 7. Great auk. Once thriving in colonies off North Atlantic coasts, the great auk would grow up to 30 inches long, and its tiny little wings would only be used to swim, so don't get too excited. These little balls of fluff did not fly in the skies. Their wings were really tiny. They were like 13 centimeters long, just little... They were cute, but quite defenseless. I don't know if you could have picked up on that. You know, very cute, very defenseless, obviously. Fluffy dudes. Around the 1500s, European fishermen discovered this perfect area for hunting, and it just happened to be where most, if not all, these great auks were thriving. Newfoundland, yeah, it looked like the iceberg in Club Penguin at this point. It was packed. It was a good time if you weren't a great auk. You were eating good if you were a fisherman, so their number rapidly declined. By 1950, the last 2 known specimens were hunted by one single fisherman on LD Island, just off the coast of Iceland. One dude just Thanos'd an entire bird species. What a monster. Scientists plan on using genetic information extracted from their fossils or preserved organs. You know, we love organs in jars. So they plan on editing their DNA with the closest living species, which is now the razor-billed auk. The organization Revive and Restore is behind the wheel on this one again. You'll see these names come up a few times over and over on this list because, yeah, not too many companies are trying to revive dead animals. What do you know?
Number 6. The Steller Sea Cow. Named after George Wilhelm Steller, who discovered this ball of blubber back in 1741. The Steller Sea Cow was first discovered during the Vitus Bering's Great Northern Expedition. They found her right after the crew became shipwrecked. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse. Here's a surprise sea cow to confuse you. Good luck! They were quite common millions of years ago, but sadly, and unsurprisingly, they were no match for humans. They only swam about 1 meter deep, so they were quite easy to hunt. George Steller assures that these creatures were made of pure love. They had strong bond with their families, which made it even easier to hunt. That's sick. Taylor. That's Taylor. Wow, that's really sad. What's also sad is my pronunciation of gestation, considering they had a 1-year gestation period. The species just couldn't reproduce fast enough to keep up with the hunting. But scientists were able to sequence their genome, which means we could see these creatures again one day. The answer may lie in the DNA of a dugong. Is that a Pokemon? That's a Pokemon, isn't it? That's a Pokemon.
Number 5, the dodo bird. So dodo birds were once big and beautiful. These flightless ground nesting birds once filled the islands of the Indian Ocean. They had massive talons. They were pretty scary. They were gray and blue, so they were beautiful. They didn't have any natural predator, right? This sounds great. No natural predator until we came along, of course. Around 1507, the island was discovered by Portuguese sailors, and the rest, yeah, you can guess. The rest is history. They were the easiest bird to hunt. Had the phrase dead as a dodo, right? They were easy to take out. They weren't just loved by sailors either. They were not 100% to blame here, okay? Monkeys, rats, pigs, any animal that made its way to the island just had their eggs for lunch. It was so easy. So it didn't take a long time for the dodo population to completely be gone. The last dodo was hunted in 1681, but could it be on this list? Could we bring back the dodo bird today? Hopefully, I mean maybe, I don't know. Scientists found an extremely well-preserved dodo skeleton back in 2007, so we may have a chance at picking apart some DNA. A research facility near Melbourne, Australia is currently trying to use pigeon genes to bring this bird back. Again, I'm all for science, I'm all for bringing animals back to life. You know, scientifically, that's a feat in itself, great work, we love it. But do we really think no one's gonna make dodo bird chicken wings? That's a problem waiting to happen. As soon as I said it, you were like, oh, that would be pretty good.
Number 4, Pyrenean ibex. I'm just as confused as you guys are. That Pyrenean ibex went extinct 22 years ago. Last one was seen in 2000, my friends. The last one was a female named Celia. That's so nice. A falling tree sadly killed her. Oh my god. That's horrible. A subspecies of the Spanish ibex were once native to the Pyrenees Mountains on the border of Spain and France. Back in the Dark Ages, medieval times, their population was reduced drastically to an endangered level. They would roam the land, but knights with swords and bows and armies to feed, you can kind of guess what happened there. Disease being spread by humans at this point also played an important role in their demise. Humans could barely keep up, let alone animals. The Pyrenean ibex was successfully cloned and brought back from extinction for a whopping 7 minutes. DNA from the last living lady was implanted into the womb of a domestic goat. Science is wild, dude. That's so crazy. Lung complications are why the clone didn't last longer than 7 minutes, but listen to what I just said. They made a clone for 7 minutes. It's a start.
Number 3, the Tasmanian tiger. Once native to Australia, classic, the Tasmanian tiger, also known as the thylacine, you have to say that in an Australian accent, the thylacine. It was a massive thylacine. I'm gonna say it all day now. It was a massive carnivorous marsupial that went extinct around the 1930s. So major factors here, as you probably have guessed, climate change, hunting, and its genetic diversity wasn't all too great. It's sad on one hand because these beautiful creatures disappeared so recently, but it's recent enough that we have a shot at bringing them back. Yeah, just back to life. Hi, that was a close one. Go hunt. Yeah, imagine looking outside and seeing this thing on your front yard. Are we ready for this? I can barely handle like deer in Canada. I don't know. Squirrels, black squirrels, they're scary up in Canada. I don't know. Thank God for those jars though. About time we open those up. Some jars of organs, classic. Already we have some of the Tasmanian tiger genes present after scientists, inserted them into a mouse fetus and they're just waiting to see what happens. The Australian Museum has been working hard to bring this beast back to life and they're close. They're only still lacking the DNA fully to recreate it. So if you have any jars of Tasmanian tiger parts, comment down below, hit that thumbs up, let us know. We'll bring them back.
Number 2, the gastric brooding frog. That just sounds like it needs to be shot. I'm a big fan of frogs. I mean, I don't mind them, they're green and stuff and they're slimy, I guess. They're pretty cool. Except for when they hatch babies out of their backs. Taylor showed me a video of that earlier and I almost threw up. There's a joke there somewhere, but I don't know, that's just gross, dude. Why would you show me that, Taylor? Frogs are wild, but back in the day they were quite dangerous to be around. Gastric brooding frogs, for one, are so alien. These frogs would swallow its egg and hatch them from their mouth. No. So if you saw this in the wild, you would know. You might just see one soon. Maybe your kids will see one in the wild. Now they went extinct back in 1983, but scientists have figured out a way to implant dead cells into a fresh egg from an entirely different frog species. Let's just hope these new ones aren't born out of their back and we're golden. I don't have to think about that. Oh God. Oh.
And finally, number 1, the Megatherium. Mega. Big last, number 1, mega number 1. That's actually not that big. We talked about bringing back the woolly mammoth, so what other Ice Age cast member can we see in live action in the future? Let's see. Perhaps the Megatherium, aka the giant ground sloth. Yeah, they're kind of cute. They're scary, but they're pretty cute. They're slow and cute. Sloths used to be a lot bigger than we think. We often laugh at them for being so slow. The movie Ice Age sure didn't help their case as the dodo birds. Of course, the giant ground sloth is closely related to our modern three-toed sloth, but luckily for us, today's sloths aren't the same size as an elephant. Yeah, because that would be a horror film, wouldn't it? If a giant elephant-sized sloth started to slowly climb a tree outside of my house, I'd be sick. I wouldn't wake up. I'd be like, that's it. I had a heart attack. That's the scariest thing I've ever seen. We may be able to bring this one back, although they died off 8,000 years ago. It's still possible. Anything's possible with science and a little hope and fear. DNA samples were extracted from their hair remains, so the next step is to develop a fetus in an artificial womb. That's the hard part, so keep in tune for that. Keep in tune for that. That's the thing we like to say here. Keep in tune, guys. Keep in tune for part 2.
And we're kicking off the list with a big one, the king of the dinosaurs, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. This was a formidable dinosaur that lived approximately 68 to 66 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period. Known for its massive size, sharp teeth, and powerful hind limbs, the T-Rex was one of the largest land predators in Earth's history. The T-Rex could grow up to 40 feet in length and stood about 15 feet tall with a large skull filled with serrated teeth, capable of crushing bones. It was a carnivorous predator, preying on other dinosaurs and potentially scavenging for food as well. T-Rex likely had excellent vision and sense of smell, making it a skilled hunter. The general consensus amongst scientists is that resurrecting dinosaurs is highly improbable due to the ancient age of their fossils, making the recovery of viable genetic material nearly impossible. Despite these challenges though, the Adam Smith Institute is attempting to resurrect dinosaurs, including the T-Rex, by backbreeding flightless birds. Modern birds are considered descendants of dinosaurs, and the Institute aims to isolate their DNA and incorporate gene technology to recreate dinosaur traits. The Institute's vision goes beyond just resurrecting the T-Rex. They plan to extend this technology to revive more dinosaur species, expanding the controversial boundaries of de-extinction efforts. Number 9, the Velociraptor. Velociraptors were about 6 feet long, standing around 2 feet tall. They had a slender body, sharp claws on their hands, and of course that distinctive sickle-shaped claw on each foot. They were incredibly predatory. I'm going to start off with a quote by Madsen Peary, the president of the aforementioned Adam Smith Institute. Several species of dinosaur will be recreated, making their appearance on Earth for the first time in 66 million years. It will not be done a la Jurassic Park, with their DNA extracted from blood-sucking insects preserved in amber. It was always highly dubious that enough of the DNA molecule would survive in this way. Instead, dinosaurs will be recreated by backbreeding from flightless birds. Birds are modern-day dinosaurs, but they no longer look like dinosaurs. Deep within their DNA, however, will be information relating to the time when they did. And a combination of selective breeding and gene technology will be used to give them the characteristic features of dinosaurs. The jaws with teeth, the tail, the small forelimbs. Anyway, I can't imagine dinosaurs like T-Rexes and velociraptors being brought back and then released into the wild, because that would be a disaster and entirely pointless. This would definitely be a situation where they would be created purely for the spectacle of it, but that would be pretty ethically questionable as well. But now that we've established what these dinosaurs would be used for, basically being caged up for us to gawk at in weird amusement parks, let's move on to the next terrifying species on the list. Next up on the list is the Ankylosaurus. Ankylosaurus was a dinosaur that roamed the earth around 68 to 66 million years ago. It was a herbivore, but it was coated in this crazy armor. It was about the length of a car, covered in thick, bony plates all over its body. It also had a tail that ended in a heavy club type thing, like solid bone. Very powerful weapon. If a predator like Tyrannosaurus Rex came too close, Ankylosaurus could swing its tail, delivering a bone-crushing blow. These were like tanks of their time. It wasn't the kind of dinosaur you'd want to mess with if you were another dinosaur. As for the idea of bringing them back, in theory, it's a possibility. With advancements in genetic engineering, scientists have explored the concept of de-extinction. This would mean extracting and manipulating ancient DNA, filling in the gaps with DNA from related modern species, and then finding a suitable surrogate for gestation. But again, all that DNA is really old, so it would probably mean something similar to the whole flightless bird thing, but I'm not a scientist and I don't know how the hell they're even going to go about that. But number 7, Gigantosaurus. Gigantosaurus was a massive theropod dinosaur that lived around 98 million years ago. Gigantosaurus earned its name, which means giant southern lizard, because of its formidable size and strength. In terms of sheer size, Gigantosaurus was one of the largest theropod dinosaurs, rivaling even Tyrannosaurus Rex. It could reach lengths of up to 40 feet or more, making it a top predator in its ecosystem. It had these really sharp teeth, some measuring over 6 inches long, which were designed for, of course, tearing through flesh. It had incredible hunting abilities. It was an apex predator. Its large size, combined with its powerful jaws and sharp teeth, allowed it to take down even the largest dinosaurs of its time. In at number 6, we have iguanodons. These were actually herbivores, so not as dangerous as some of the stuff on this list, but they were still very formidable creatures, and I think it wouldn't take kindly to humans walking up to them if they were walking around nowadays for some reason. These lived during the early Cretaceous period. It was a large dinosaur, reaching lengths of up to 33 feet and weighing several tons. They're known for that unique thumb spike, which would have been pretty useful for defending against predators. They also had a toothless beak at the front of their mouth, used for cropping vegetation. It could walk on both its hind legs and front limbs. This allowed it to browse for vegetation efficiently. It likely fed on a variety of plants, ferns, conifers, and other vegetation that was abundant during the time. Iguanodons were also one of the first dinosaurs to be scientifically described. Its fossils were discovered in the early 19th century and played a big role in shaping our understanding of dinosaurs during that time. Alright, iguanodons are cool, but not quite as terrifying as a lot of what's on this list. So let's get back to the bad boys, shall we? At number 5, we have the Spinosaurus. This is the main dino from Jurassic Park 3. I always thought this was a really cool one when I was a kid. These are often called the spine lizard. It was a colossal dinosaur that existed around 112 to 93 million years ago. These spines on its back could reach up to 7 feet in height. The dino itself was around 49 to 59 feet long and weighed in at 7 to 20 tons. Spinosaurus had an elongated snout filled with conical teeth suitable for catching slippery prey like fish. At first we thought it to be primarily a land-dwelling dinosaur, but more recent findings suggested it was more adapted to a semi-aquatic or even fully aquatic lifestyle. It had large clawed limbs specifically adapted for swimming. Next we have the Gigantoraptor. These things really creep me out. Imagine a turkey, like ostrich type thing, but the size of a house. It was about 16 feet long and stood around 11 feet tall, making it one of the largest feathered dinosaurs ever discovered. What makes Gigantoraptor truly interesting is its unusual combination of features. It had a beak like a bird, which hints at a diet of plants and small animals, but it couldn't fly. Scientists believe it might have used its large size as a defense mechanism against predators instead. Gigantoraptor was discovered in Mongolia, adding to the ever-expanding list of fascinating dinosaurs found in that region. When scientists unearthed its fossils, they were baffled and pretty excited all at once. It was massive, but had bird-like traits, which challenged what researchers thought they knew about dinosaurs' evolution at the time. Number 3, the Maposaurus. So this colossal predator prowled ancient landscapes of South America around 100 million years ago. Maposaurus was a member of the theropod family, closely related to the famous T-Rex. It could reach lengths of up to 33 feet. One of the most intriguing things about the Maposaurus, though, and what set it apart from the T-Rex, was its social behavior. Fossil evidence suggests that these dinosaurs might have hunted in packs. So imagine a gang of these massive predators working together, kind of like velociraptors would. This pack hunting strategy allowed them to target even the most enormous titanosaurs that roamed the region. Maposaurus was discovered in 2006 when its fossils were found in Argentina. And at number 2, we have the Megaraptor. These were actually closer to the T-Rex than they were the raptor actually, but they were much faster and more dexterous than the T-Rex. They also had the use of their hands, which would have made them a terrifying threat. The Megaraptor was a member also of the theropod family, known for its sharp claws, carnivorous habits. These guys had enormous sickle-shaped claws, not on their feet like other raptors, but on their hands, which could reach lengths of nearly 14 inches. These claws were its primary weapon for hunting, used to slash through the hides of prey with very deadly precision. The name Megaraptor actually translates to giant thief. When this thing was first discovered, it was misidentified because of the mismatched discovery of claws and other bones. It was thought to be closer related to the Velociraptor family, but it was later discovered the claws belonged to a different, larger dinosaur, leading to the creation of the genus Megaraptor. Its fossils have been dug out throughout South America. Its habitat would have been a mix of forests and then open plains, and it probably preyed on smaller dinosaurs and other creatures using those claws. And finally, we have Carnotaurus, the meat-eating bull. Just look at this monster. Incredibly intimidating, but relatively compact compared to some of its larger dinosaur relatives. It's of course known for the pair of horns above its eyes, giving it a bull-like appearance. Also kind of demonic to me. These horns, coupled with the deep skull and powerful jaw muscles, likely means that Carnotaurus didn't just take out weaker species, but probably fought amongst themselves too, using their headgear to establish dominance over one another and attract mates. They had a streamlined body, meaning they were probably fast and agile. Then you got those hilariously stubby arms. Definitely detracts from the fear factor a bit, but it compensated with those big, juicy legs in the back. Its fossils have been primarily found in South America, specifically in Argentina. And we're kicking off the list with aurochs. In the ancient days, there was a huge cattle species called the aurochs. They roamed around Eurasia to North Africa, but as humans came into the picture, they started disappearing. By Roman times, only the European aurochs were left, and they eventually bit the dust in 1627, gone forever. Then came the 1930s, and a couple of folks named Heinz and Lutz Heck thought they could play Mother Nature and possibly bring the aurochs back. They ended up getting something close-ish called Heck cattle. Jump to today, though. There are a few groups, the Tauros program, the Taurus project, and the Urus project, all trying to revive the aurochs. The first two are using selective breeding, but the Urus project, on the other hand, is going high-tech, using gene editing in the hopes of resurrecting the species. And at number 9 on our list is the quagga. The quagga were a subspecies of zebra on the southern tip of Africa. They were hunted to extinction, finally dying out in 1883. Now, let's jump to 1980. Some clever minds set out to bring the species back. Scientists delved into the DNA, and this was when it was first discovered that the quagga were actually a subspecies of the plains. That was the green light they needed, and in 1987 they launched the Quagga project in South Africa. They chose 9 zebras, ones that shared traits with the quagga, and it brought them to a special breeding camp. They didn't stop there. More zebras were selected, each for their quagga-like qualities, and brought into the program. As the years passed, many baby zebras were born, and something amazing happened. They got results. 6 of these zebras turned out to be incredibly close to the original quagga. They weren't quite there yet, but they were similar, and they earned their own special title, Rao quaggas. Next up, we have the thylacine, aka the Tasmanian tiger. Now, this critter was like a mix of a wolf and a kangaroo with like a striped pattern going on. They look really cool. They were native to Tasmania, an island state of Australia, and they were the largest known carnivorous marsupials of modern times. Sadly though, humans weren't too friendly to them, and they went extinct in the 20th century. Fast forward to 2017, and scientists were trying to make up for humanity's mistakes. They managed to pull off something pretty amazing. They decoded the full nuclear genome of the thylacine. Andrew J. Pask from the University of Melbourne said the next move would be to create a fully functioning thylacine genome. It's going to take some serious time and research, but scientists are saying they might be able to pull it off and bring the thylacine back from the dead by 2027. It really helps with the species that they were around not too long ago. I think the last one died in like, I don't know, 1930 something, if I'm correct. Number 7 though, we have the woolly rhinoceros. As you could probably imagine, the woolly rhinoceros resembled modern rhinoceroses, but with fur. These were primarily found in the Mammoth Steppe, a cold and dry grassland ecosystem stretched across northern Eurasia and North America during the Ice Age. It became extinct around 10,000 years ago. As the Earth warmed at the ends of the last Ice Age, the Mammoth Steppe began to disappear, leading to a decline in the rhinoceros's food sources. Early humans also hunted these animals for their meat, their bones, and their hides. In recent years, advances in genetic engineering and cloning technologies have led to the possibility of bringing the woolly rhinoceros back. Scientists have been exploring the idea of using genetic material from preserved specimens to recreate them. One potential method for bringing back the woolly rhinoceros involves extracting DNA from well-preserved specimens, like a carcass found in permafrost, for example. Scientists could then sequence the genome of the woolly rhinoceros and compare it to the genomes of its closest living relatives, of course your standard rhinoceros, and to then identify the specific genetic differences and go from there. Next on the list we have moas. Moas were large flightless birds native to New Zealand. They belonged to the ratite group, which includes modern birds like ostriches and emus, kiwis. Some stood as tall as 12 feet, making them the largest birds on Earth at the time. But the arrival of humans in New Zealand marked the beginning of the end for these creatures. Due to the moa's lack of any natural predators, They were very easy prey. The population dwindled rapidly, and by the end of the 15th century, moas had vanished from New Zealand. And fast forward to modern times, thanks to advanced DNA extraction techniques, scientists have managed to obtain genetic material from moa remains, particularly ancient eggshells. And this allows scientists to study the moa genome and potentially resurrect them. Some scientists have contemplated the possibility of resurrecting these birds through a process called de-extinction. This involves using the preserved DNA to modify the genetic material of closely related birds, like in this case an emu and an ostrich, and create a creature that genetically at least would resemble the long-lost creature. And at number 5 now, we have woolly mammoths. So everyone has heard of the woolly mammoth, a long extinct animal that some scientists have expressed real interest in trying to bring back through genetic engineering. Mammoths were these massive, hairy relatives of modern elephants. They lived during the last ice age, thousands of years ago, stomping around in places like Europe, Asia, and North America. They adapted to cold climates, with their long, shaggy hair protecting them from the freezing temperatures. Scientists haven't only dug up mammoth bones, but relatively well-preserved carcasses in the frozen tundra of Siberia. The plan is to take the mammoth DNA and insert it into the cells of modern elephants, their closest living relatives. Question is, why do this? And I guess that's the question for everything on this list. Well, some scientists think that bringing back mammoths might help combat climate change, actually. Mammoths stomped around, munching on plants, preventing forests from taking over grasslands. So the thought is, if we reintroduce mammoths, they might help keep the Arctic tundra in check, slowing down the thawing of permafrost and basically curbing global warming. Number 4, the Pyrenean ibex. This was a subspecies of the Iberian ibex, inhabiting the mountainous regions of the Pyrenees between Spain and France. In 1999, the last known Pyrenean ibex female named Celia was tagged and collared. A tissue sample was taken from her for future cloning experiments, but in 2000, Celia herself was found dead, crushed by a fallen tree. In 2003, scientists attempted to bring back the Pyrenean ibex from extinction using cloning technology. This involved transferring the nucleus of Celia's skin cell into the egg cell of a domestic goat. The modified egg was then implanted into the uterus of a surrogate mother goat. Multiple goats were impregnated, but only one pregnancy came to term. The clone was successfully born, making it like history as the first cloned extinct animal, but had a number of health issues. It suffered from a lung defect and survived for just 7 minutes after birth. Obviously, didn't go how they wanted it to, but this was still a big scientific leap. The experiment's outcomes led to extensive discussions in the scientific community on the ethics, really, and practicality of cloning endangered or extinct species. Next up on the list are passenger pigeons. These were once one of the most abundant bird species in North America, but after all the hunting and habitat loss, the species became extinct by the early 20th century. There are currently efforts to revive the passenger pigeon, though, led by the nonprofit organization Revive and Restore. Revive and Restore are studying the DNA of the passenger pigeon and its closest living relative, the band-tailed pigeon, by identifying specific mutations in the DNA that cause the differences between the two species. Their aim is to basically modify the DNA of the band-tailed pigeon to have traits more similar to the passenger pigeon. The resultant hybrid wouldn't be an exact copy of the original passenger pigeon, but it would be virtually indistinguishable in terms of its appearance and its behavior. Captive breeding of these hybrid pigeons is actually planned to commence in 2024, and then larger numbers of the hybrids are scheduled to be released into the wild by 2030. If this turns out to be successful, it'd be pretty groundbreaking in the realm of de-extinction efforts. We could see the same thing happening with other extinct or endangered animals, possibly ones on this very list. And at number 2, we have the dodo, the laughingstock of the natural pecking order. Like, no animal in existence, I don't think, gets dogged on as much as this poor animal, and they're not even around to defend themselves anymore, at least for now. The dodo was a large flightless bird, stood about 3 feet tall, had a plump body and a hooked beak. Because of its inability to fly and its lack of natural predators on the island, the dodo evolved without strong defenses, and dodos were discovered by Portuguese sailors in the late 16th century. Humans along with the introduction of animals like pigs, rats, monkeys, led to the end of the dodo. The last confirmed sighting of one was in 1662. By the end of the 17th century, they were extinct. Extracting usable... Now, dodo DNA samples are scarce and heavily degraded. Extracting usable genetic material is a bit difficult. The potential is there though. Maybe one day this silly bird will make a comeback. But finally at number 1, we have Neanderthals. Yeah, that's right. How wild would this be? Having other species of human existing alongside us, a species where we were thought to have killed off, brought back to, like, I don't know, right the wrong, I guess. I think this would be a complete disaster. We can't even get along with each other, let alone an entirely separate species of human. The idea of Neanderthals being brought back is very far-fetched in terms of us having any real desire to do it. It would, however, be entirely possible. Neanderthal DNA exists in modern-day human beings, particularly Europeans, because Neanderthals and modern humans coexisted in what is now Europe. Not just warring with each other, but also interbreeding from time to time. So attempting to bring Neanderthals back would mean human beings would be the surrogates, which would also be very strange.
In our number 10 spot, we have the elephant bird. The elephant bird became extinct approximately 1000 to 1200 CE, and it is most likely due to human activity due to hunting, climate and vegetation change, and habitat loss due to deforestation. These birds are from the ratite family, Epornithidae, and they were enormous flightless birds. They used to live in Madagascar. They stood about 9.8 feet tall and weighed approximately 1,600 pounds. Their closest living relative is the kiwi bird. It is said that they most likely ate low-hanging fruit, even though they look like they could gobble you up in one go. I would have personally thought them to be carnivores, but thankfully not. I would be fine if scientists brought them back. Any herbivore, you know, is fine, but if they pulled a Jurassic Park on us and brought back the carnivores, then I would not be okay. In our number 9 spot, we have the Pyrenean ibex. The Pyrenean ibex was basically a wild goat. When people say that they love goats, I'm always a little perplexed. Why? Just why? Watch my dad will for sure watch this episode and will say something like, "Hey, I love goats," and yes, he does indeed. I don't know why. He's always sending me goat videos when he goes to his friend's farm. I shall never understand. Anyways, this wild goat was 5 feet long and apparently 30 inches tall. It was found in southwestern Europe, and the species died out in 2003, which is really not that long ago. I was 13. Shoot, I need to stop giving away my age. I mean, I was just born. Anyways, the last goat was born and died 7 minutes after its birth due to a lung defect. Hunting, inbreeding, and other factors basically caused this goat's extinction over time. Honestly, it's a bit of a shame that this goat no longer exists because it looks rather majestic, much more classier than regular goats. In our number 8 spot, we have the Chinese river dolphin. It breaks my heart to think that a species of the dolphin might be extinct, but sadly it is. The Chinese river dolphin, known as the baji, sadly went extinct in 2002. It primarily lived in freshwater rivers, primarily in the Yangtze River. The main reason for its extinction is due to the impact of humans. It was directly targeted by meat lovers, but also due to an increasing amount of construction projects on the river. The dolphin, who relies primarily on its sonar capabilities, found it hard to navigate for food because of the construction noise. Pollution in the waters also didn't help either, as well as overfishing. The males were about 7.5 feet long, while the females could be about 8.2 feet. I have a soft spot for dolphins, so honestly I really hope scientists are able to bring this one back. In our number 7 spot, we have the dodo bird. The dodo bird is a bird that I would probably be terrified of if I was in a room alone with it, as it's just kinda scary looking. I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of birds in general, so maybe my biases. The dodo bird lived on the island of Mauritius. The bird was about 3.3 feet tall when alive. They went extinct in the 17th century, so quite a long time ago now. What did they eat? Well, their diet primarily consisted of eating from a specific tree that was, called the dodo tree, but the scientific name for the tree is called tambalacoke tree. They also ate nuts, fruits, roots, and small insects. So really, I would have nothing to be afraid of. I bet it would totally mess me up though, cause they were, big birds. My scrawny self would just hide. In our number 6 spot, we have the Tasmanian tiger. The Tasmanian tiger, despite its name, isn't actually a tiger, but was named this due to its tiger-like characteristics. The tiger only recently went extinct in the 20th century in 1936. The species slowly began to decrease about 2,000 years ago due to pressure from indigenous human settlers. They lived primarily in Australia and New Guinea. They were typically 39 inches to 51 inches long and 24 inches high. They have a close living relative, and that's the Tasmanian devil and the numbat. Not gonna lie, I had no idea the Tasmanian devil was a real animal. I totally thought it was just a lovable cartoon character, so I'm shook. Anyone else? Apparently there is hope for the Tasmanian tiger, as with recovering a little DNA, it may be possible to de-extinct the species. I hope scientists are able to. In our number 5 spot, we have the woolly mammoth. If the woolly mammoth was brought back to life and found just wandering around the world, I don't know how I would feel. Not gonna lie. I mean, first thought is to be terrified, but maybe that's dramatic because it's not like it would try to eat me because they are herbivores. Hashtag drama queen. Apparently the woolly mammoth would be about 10 feet to 12 feet high with a weight of up to 6 tons. They are the relative of African elephants, and they went extinct about 4,000 years ago in East Asia. Fun fact about the woolly mammoth, the rings on the tusk tells you how old it is, just like the rings on a tree do. Apparently there is a line for every year. In our number 4 spot, we have the saber-toothed tiger. Okay, if scientists brought back this species, this would be insane. But do we really need another predatory species that want humans to die? We already have to deal with, lions, tigers, and the reptiles in our government, so I think I speak for all of us when I say this isn't necessary. But would be cool to witness. The saber-toothed tiger has been a wonder to many for so long. They are famously known for their long, curved canine teeth. It could weigh anywhere between 485 pounds to 961 pounds. It was approximately 39 inches tall. Its closest relative is the tiger, of course. They originated in North and South America about 10,000 years ago, so it would be extraordinary if scientists found a way to bring them out of extinction. In our number 3 spot, we have the glyptodont. The glyptodont is a larger subfamily of the armadillo. They were around from approximately 34 million years ago in South America, and when the continents became connected, they spread to North America. They were about 12 feet long and 1.5 feet high. They had fluted teeth, and they were covered in a thick, bony carapace. They went extinct approximately 7,000 to 8,000 years ago. It's so interesting how much bigger animals were thousands of years ago, and now all of these big animals have much smaller subfamilies that are alive today. I mean, obviously that's better for us humans, as the less threats we have physically, the better, but still interesting to note. In our number 2 spot, we have the quagga. Okay, so you're probably thinking, Melissa, is this not just a zebra? Yeah, it is a species of zebra, but it's still different and it's extinct, and scientists are thinking of bringing it back. The quagga went extinct in the 19th century, and one of the last pictures that we have of the quagga alive is from 1870 in a London zoo. It's a subspecies of zebra from South Africa. It's about 8 8 feet 5 inches long and 4 feet 5 inches tall. It has a sandy brown coat with a white tail and stripes from the top to the middle part of its body. They were herbivores and would typically live 20 to 40 years. They look, pretty majestic to me. I hope this is a species that scientists are able to bring back. In our number 1 spot, we have the ground sloth. The ground sloth is from South Africa and went extinct approximately 11,000 years ago, and some of the species of ground sloths have been extinct longer. The Megatherium, for example, has been extinct for 12,000 years, and this one in particular looks more like a bear than a sloth. It was massive and could be up to 20 feet tall, weighing about 6,600 pounds. Imagine these sloths were just roaming the world today. There are already enough scary bears in the world. I feel like, we're good without this one. But still, this would be an unbelievable breakthrough if we could bring back these creatures. Although I am sure that they wouldn't be as friendly as Sid from Ice Age. That short, cute little guy wouldn't hurt a fly. His lisp is literally the cutest thing in the world. But anyways, would be cool if they came back.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the woolly mammoth. We would certainly be missing a very important animal on this list if we didn't include the woolly mammoth. These guys were of course a species of mammoth, and in fact, they were one of the last in line of mammoth species. Because of the fact that in both Alaska and Siberia there were frozen carcasses discovered, they're actually one of the most well-studied extinct creatures. Exactly why or how they were driven to extinction is widely debated, and another thing people like to debate is whether or not we should try and bring them back. There was a genome project completed in 2015, and since then it has been proposed that the species could be revived through a few different means, but no one yet has taken the leap. Here's the thing though, there's a new company that is pretty set on de-extincting woolly mammoths, and they have a new investor. This investor is called In-Q-Tel, and they are registered as a non-profit venture capital firm that is funded by none other than the CIA. They claim that the interest in this company is less about mammoths and more about the capability to do such crazy projects. What do you guys think about reviving extinct animals? Are we on board? Are we terrified? Let us know down below in the comments.
Number 9. Passenger pigeons. The passenger pigeon once ruled the skies over Canada as recently as the 19th century. Billions of these bright orange birds would paint the skies, but only a few decades passed and passenger pigeons are gone. They're just no more. Now we have the pigeons that follow you onto the subway, What happened, right? The very last passenger pigeon was Martha. She passed away in the Cincinnati Zoo back in 1914. So we took a look at her DNA to see if Martha held any secrets to her past, and lo and behold, they discovered Martha had a low genetic diversity for such a growing population. Natural selection and hunting eliminated arguably the coolest looking bird alive. Well, not alive anymore. The last one died in 1914, but in 2019, paleontologists found remains of the pigeon in protected indigenous lands in Canada in the Northwest Territories. They blended passenger pigeon DNA with archaeopteryx dinosaur DNA. So that's science for you. We're bringing back pigeons with a hint of dinosaur. What could go wrong?
In our number 8 spot today, we have the western black rhinoceros. The western black rhino was a subspecies of the black rhinoceros, and they made their home in the savanna of sub-Saharan Africa. These guys were unfortunately the victims of poaching, which led to their rapid decline. Isn't that a bit ironic? People got so greedy trying to kill these incredible animals so that they could make money off of them, and now they can't make any money off of them because they killed them all. What a genius business plan. Anyways, this species first originated around 7 to 8 million years ago, and for most of the 1900s, it was the highest population of rhino species. That all changed, however, as from 1970 to 1992, the population of black rhinos in general decreased by 96%. Other than poachers, another main culprit for the decline was farmers who killed the animals to protect their crops that were placed close to rhino territories. The last sighting of a western black rhinoceros was in 2006 in Cameroon's northern province, and sadly the subspecies was officially declared extinct in 2011.
Number 7. The great auk. Once thriving in colonies off North Atlantic coasts, the great auk would grow to 30 inches long, and its tiny wings would only be used to swim. Their wings were about 13 centimeters long, and they were so cute, and obviously, just looking at them, they were quite defenseless. I don't know if you could have picked up on that, you could probably take them. Very cute, very defenseless, you get it. Around the 1500s, European fishermen discovered this perfect area for hunting. and sadly it just happened to be where most, if not all, great auks were living. Newfoundland looked like the iceberg and club penguin. It was kinda, dare I say, perfect. Unless you were of course a great auk. You were eating good if you were a fisherman, so the number rapidly declined, and by 1950 the last 2 known specimens ever were hunted by a single fisherman on Eldey Island, just off the coast of Iceland. Yeah, one dude just Thanos the bird population. Nice, what a monster, what a great brunch. Scientists now plan on using genetic information extracted from their fossils, or preserved organs, because some have organs in jars just hiding around. They plan on editing their DNA into the closest living species, which is now the razor-billed auk. The organization Revive and Restore is behind the wheel on this one. You'll see a few names come up over and over on this list, and yeah, not too many companies are trying to bring animals back from the dead.
In our number 6 spot today, we have the Morean viviparous tree snail. This was a species of air-breathing tropical land snails that were endemic to French Polynesia. This extinction was actually caused by a chain of events that happened after something humans did. The African land snail was introduced into Tahiti in 1967 as a food source, but it quickly escaped and began to destroy crops. Biologists wanted to attempt to control the African land snail, so they decided to introduce the rosy wolf snail to the area in 1977. Well, this went absolutely haywire, as the rosy wolf snail didn't just control the population of African land snails, but rather started to eradicate all of the snails that were native to the area, which of course includes our little friend, the Morean viviparous tree snail. So this one little introduction led to them becoming totally extinct in the wild. These snails do still exist in captivity, and there have been attempts to re-release them into the wild, but the rosy wolf snail continues to prey upon them, so at this point researchers are unsure if it will ever be possible for them to live in the wild again.
Number 5. Megatherium, aka giant ground sloths. How lovely and terrifying is this one? Sloths used to be a lot bigger than we think. Yeah, we often laugh at them for being so slow and funny looking. The movie Ice Age certainly didn't help their case. Now of course the giant ground sloth is closely related to our modern 3-toed sloth. But luckily for us, today's aren't the same size as an elephant, because that would be a horror film. We wouldn't be alive anymore. I'd be sick to my stomach. If a giant elephant-sized sloth was in that movie, that would be not a family feature film. That is terrifying. That's Jurassic Park now. But we may be able to bring this one back, although they died off 8,000 years ago. DNA samples were extracted from their hairy remains, so the next step is to develop a fetus in an artificial womb. Yeah, that sounds easy, doesn't it? Let's just do that, sure. Let's 3D print it.
In our number 4 spot today, we have the Tasmanian tiger. These guys are actually less like tigers that we're used to, but they're actually marsupials. But not really like the marsupials we know today. These guys are a carnivorous marsupial that was native to Australia mainland and the islands of Tasmania and New Guinea. These guys had anatomy and adaptations that bared similarities to both tigers and wolves despite being unrelated. They were certainly an apex predator at their time, and as of now, their closest ancestors that are still surviving are the Tasmanian devil and the numat. Because of these living relatives, it is thought that scientists might be able to bring back these creatures by selecting certain parts of their DNA and sort of selectively breeding the species back into reality.
Number 3. The moa. This New Zealand bird went extinct about 600 years ago. The moa were these flightless birds, massive and terrifying, might I add, and archaeologists first discovered its fossil in a cave. Its flesh and everything was still attached. They had no idea what they were looking at for numerous years. And to be fair, yeah, it's haunting, it's terrifying. These ancient birds would reach about 5 feet tall, and when you think of dinosaurs, you probably think that's quite petite in comparison to, the scary ones. But the birds actually stopped flying right after dinosaurs went extinct because they didn't need to fly anymore. They didn't need to run for their lives. According to biologist Matthew Phillips from the Australian National University in Canberra, these birds were then safely able to roam the land after they didn't need to make these daring dino air escapes. It's beautiful. They just walked around, got fat, and would hang out in caves, then they eventually died off. Dare I say, the perfect demise. Phillips says this was an advantage when it came to birds and evolution, because wings, big or small, they do kill energy. So it might seem a little depressing to watch a creature lose the ability of flight, but well, it's because they're eating good, okay? Good problems. Scientists have found more moa DNA from ancient eggshells, so yeah, it's a possibility we may see these fatties soar the skies once again. They just gotta, shed a few bird pounds, that's all.
In our number 2 spot today, we have the woolly rhinoceros. We talked about another kind of rhino before, but now we have a woolly one. I didn't even really know that these ones used to exist. These guys were a species that was quite common in Europe and Asia during the Pleistocene, and they survived up until the end of the last glacial period. These guys were an animal that is seen depicted in cave paintings, and we have even discovered their bones and remains that were mummified and preserved in permafrost. These guys were stocky and they had a thick woolly coat which helped them survive in the cold tundra environment. In 2020 there was actually one of the best preserved remains of one of these animals ever found, which is a remarkable scientific discovery, but it has now prompted the questions about possibly reviving the species.
And finally, number 1, the smartest of them all, the biggest, baddest, the dodo bird. Dodo birds were once big and beautiful. They once filled islands all over the Indian Ocean. They had massive talons, they were gray and blue, they didn't have any natural predator, it was great. And then humans came along. Nice, way to go. Put that thumbs up for just f***ing up everything possibly around us. Around 1507, the island was discovered by Portuguese sailors, and yeah, the rest is history. We can probably figure out what happened there. It was delicious, dare I say. They were the easiest bird to hunt, hence the phrase, dead as a dodo. They're kind of stupid. They weren't just loved by sailors either, they were not 100% to blame here, okay? Monkeys, rats, pigs, any animal that made its way to these islands easily had their eggs for lunch, and they were pretty big, they were nice. Over easy. So it didn't take a long time for the dodo bird population to be completely wiped out, cause you know, yum. The last dodo was hunted in 1681, but could it be? Could we bring back the smartest dodo bird? Possibly. I don't really want this to happen. It'd be terrifying, but it might. Scientists found an extremely well-preserved dodo skeleton back in 2007, so we may have a chance at picking apart some DNA. A research facility near Melbourne, Australia is currently trying to use pigeon genes to bring this bird back as well. So yeah, I can't wait for dodo bird chicken wings. That's gonna be a nice combo. Number 4. Ooh, number 3. Definitely number 3.
Starting off this countdown, we have the extinct bat. In 2019, the Hills horseshoe bat species were spotted for the first time in 40 years. The bats are home to a Rwandan rainforest. Scientists figured that they were endangered and had gone extinct already, since they hadn't seen them in years. That was until 2019 when scientists were on a 10-day expedition, and they came across these little guys. But when they first captured the bat, they didn't know how great their discovery was going to be. One scientist said, and I quote, "We knew immediately that the bat we had captured was unusual and remarkable. The facial features were exaggerated to the point of being comical. It took them 3 years to then identify what species this bat belonged to. Once they did, that's when they realized that this bat was brought back to life." In our 9th spot, we have Catagonus wagneri. Back in the day, this animal was discovered from early fossil records. They were thought to be extinct and people only knew about them because of the fossils. That was until 1974. That's when a biology professor from University of Connecticut rediscovered them while on a research expedition. In fact, the species was well known to the native people there. However, they are badly endangered. A huge population of them live in a 2,400-acre area in Grand Chaco. They hide out in the bushy, thorny areas so that they're safe from predators and local hunters. Sadly, only approximately 3,000 remain in the world. Moving on to number 8, we have tarsier. Now these guys are undeniably cute. Just look at its eyes, like they're so cute and big for its tiny little body. But strangely enough, scientists still don't know much about them. One of the reasons being is that scientists thought that they went extinct in the 1920s. But in May of the early 2000s, while checking a rat trap that they had set in the forest, scientists discovered that they had actually caught a pygmy tarsier. Sadly, it had died in the trap. But that's what let them know they were still alive, minus that one. Then in 2008, researchers found a family of them in Lore Lindu National Park. Nowadays, it's believed that there are only 5,000 to 10,000 of these animals in the whole world. And that number is sadly falling again instead of rising. Now this is because these little creatures don't live too long in captivity. In fact, when they are in distress, they apparently try to take their own lives. So that's a reason why it's hard to look after these little guys and keep them off the endangered list. In our 7th spot today, we have the goblin shark. Now if you all have been a fan of this channel for a while, then you guys know that I hate this guy. Like, I'm not scared of sharks, but this guy, like, he's terrifying. He doesn't even look like a shark. He looks like a mutated shark. Like a shark that scientists tried to cross with a human or something. Anyways, goblin sharks were believed to have gone extinct millions of years ago. That was until 1891 when researchers spotted it off the coast of Japan. Instantly, they were confused, but also scared, because again, look at this thing. What they found the weirdest though is that this shark barely changed over time. They didn't evolve at all. They still look the exact same, hence why they are called a living fossil. So these creatures can grow 12 feet long and can weigh up to 460 pounds. But in 2000,
2000, they found a giant goblin shark that was 20 feet long. So now researchers say that they have no real idea about how big they can truly get. Now the scariest part about them is that they have these weird ligaments in their jaw, and that allows them to extend their mouths out and snatch up their prey. Plus, their mouths launch out pretty fast. That's also why it makes their mouth look so creepy, you know? In our 6th spot, we have the tequila fish. And it's a very interesting name for a fish. I hope their relatives are called the vodka fish. So these fish disappeared from the Mexican wild in 2003. This was due to pollution and invasive species. People thought there was no hope, that these fish were just gonna die off. But turns out that conservationists were able to bring them back to life after a decades-long operation. Basically, scientists at Michoacán University in Mexico took 5 pairs of these fish in 1998. They then kept the fish safe, studied them, and then they made them reproduce to develop a larger colony. After 4 years in artificial ponds, scientists were able to increase these 5 fish to 10,000. However, only 1,500 were released back into the wild. And apparently the released fish are thriving and reproducing out in the wild. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the coelacanth. You're not gonna believe this, but these fish were around when dinosaurs roamed the earth. In fact, they were believed to have gone extinct alongside the dinosaurs. Then, millions of years later, they were rediscovered. In the 19th century, scientists discovered a fossil of this fish. This fossil was over 410 million years old. They thought they went extinct around 66 million years ago. So it shocked scientists quite a bit when in 1938 they rediscovered them off the coast of South Africa. They're just alive and thriving. In our 4th spot, we have the singing dog. This animal has been named the singing dog due to their distinctive howl. Sometimes they howl together to form kind of like a choir. Apparently their howls sound like a cross between a wolf's howl and a whale's song. They are also called the New Guinea Highland dogs and are closely related to the Australian dingo. Now, wildlife biologists thought that these animals went extinct sometime in the 1970s. However, in 2016, they were rediscovered in a remote region of New Guinea. Tests were run on them and it was confirmed that they were the same breed. In our 3rd spot, we have the tree lobster, which is not an animal, so I'm technically cheating having it on today's list because it's an insect, but who cares, okay? The tree lobster is a large black stick insect. In fact, it is said to be one of the rarest insects on Earth. Back in the day, they were popular for fishing, as they were used for fishing bait. But by the 1920s, they were said to be extinct. Basically, a ship accidentally crashed onto an island and rats aboard the ship got introduced onto the island and threatened these species. But later on, a pair of Australian scientists discovered 24 of these bugs living beneath a single shrub. They ended up taking 2 pairs, breeding them, and then reintroducing more of these insects to help repopulate them. In our 2nd spot today, we have the night parrot. Night parrots are often referred to as one of the world's most mysterious birds. They were first discovered in 1845 and were extremely rare to spot. That's because they come out at night and only in remote areas. Even then, there had not been a single sighting of these birds for 100 years, so they were declared extinct. That was until 1979 when a number of them were spotted again. In fact, this bird is the holy grail for bird watchers. Some spend decades hoping to get a glimpse of this bird up close. And in our number 1 spot today, we had the Kashmir musk deer. But I like to call them the vampire deer because they have vampire fangs. So these deer are native to Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, and western Nepal. It was believed that they went extinct in 1948 until they were rediscovered in 2009. However, they are badly endangered. It's said that there are less than 5,000 musk deer throughout the world. The main reason being is because they are a very popular target for hunters. Hunters like to kill them for their musk glands, which are often used in perfumes. They are said to be a rare aphrodisiac and can sell for around $45,000 per kilogram. Now, it is illegal to hunt for them, but that still doesn't stop people.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Arctidus simus. Lions, tigers, and Arctidus simus, oh my. This one's really scary. Also known as the giant short-faced bear, the Arctidus simus went extinct only a mere 11,000 years ago. Yeah, it was once the fastest running bear that ever existed. So already, we have trouble. That's a terrifying fact. Its legs were much longer than today's bears. These were like lanky, fast bears. If the giant short-faced bear stood up on its hind legs, it would be around 13 feet tall. This thing was a beast. Today's bears also have different shaped toes. Today they have pigeon toes, more or less, but back then these guys had straight, forward-facing feet. So they were athletes, pretty much. Giant athletes with quick feet. Paleobiologists conclude that short-faced bears ate only meat. And given the fact that it was 11,000 years ago, I feel very badly for humans that found it. Well, with its powerful nose, realistically it would have found them. Yeah, the giant short-faced bear, I'm gonna say its full name every time. Also, I'm not just gonna say this bear, I'm gonna say the giant short-faced bear every time. The giant short-faced bear needed around 35 pounds of meat every day to survive. That's a lot of food. That's a lot of porridge. Yeah, I hope my porridge isn't too hot. Please God, don't let him burn his bare lips on my porridge. He's gonna eat me. These things are scary, honestly. Like, they're always like scary photos, like drawings of it too. Well, obviously there's no photos. Number 9, Spinosaurus. Yes, another Jurassic Park star, and rightfully so. Look at this thing. The largest carnivorous dinosaur of all time, even bigger than a T-Rex. Can you imagine that? 93 million years ago, they stopped terrorizing the lands of what is now Egypt and Morocco. And if you didn't already guess, its name translates to spine lizard, hence the spine stuff. And that spine was quite long. It was its main feature, you know? The Spinosaurus would measure up to 60 feet long, and aside for its back, one of the most notable features is its 6-foot-long head. It's got a massive head, man. Its mouth was similar to a crocodile's with straight, sharp teeth, not curved teeth. Straight, like a vampire. These straight teeth could stab right through anything, any fish, just a big skewer for a tooth, no problem. Paleontologists from the University of Pennsylvania believe that this guy used to swim as well. Nice, even scarier. Because where the first Spinosaurus fossils were found, well, that used to be by Haria Oasis in Egypt, which was a massive swamp. Water or land, I want nothing to do with this guy. Next. Number 8, Megapiranha. Don't have to say much about this one. What if I just said Megapiranha and then it was just the next point? You're like, oh, fair. These things, for starters, were much bigger than today's piranhas, obviously, hence their name. They came in at around 1 meter long. They ruled the waters around Argentina around 6 million years ago, so skinny dipping probably wasn't a thing. I hope not. Its bite force was 50 times its own weight, and like I said earlier, mega piranha, bigger. This thing was huge. It was bigger, it was badder, it was weightier, had more to it. Mega piranha would be around 30 pounds on average. Its bite can outchomp Megalodon any day. Any Tuesday. Even today, the word piranha makes people scared, it makes people anxious. As I was writing this, I was like, oh, I wasn't looking. Because our modern day black piranha, although sure it's only, 2 pounds, its razor sharp teeth can still take a chunk out of you. It's still quite dangerous. Yeah, but they didn't mention any of that in 3D Piranha Double D Part 3 or whatever we're watching now. These things are scary. Number 7, Helicoprion. Perhaps one of the weirdest sea creatures to ever exist. 250 million years ago, that is. This thing looks like a shark, but scientists now know that it was related to chimeras, a fish that separated from the shark family 400 million years ago. Yeah, they were like, I don't like this family. I got some things going on in my mouth. See you later. Good. The 25-foot-long fish was first discovered by Andrei Zarpinsky in Russia back in 1889. He got the name Helicoprion because it translates to spiral saw. Yeah. In their mouth. Horrible. This guy found teeth fossilized in a spiral formation. What a find. He must have been scratching his head for months. Paleontologists all agree today that this was not part of a fin. It wasn't a wacky spinal cord. This guy wasn't, all goofed up. But rather, it was its teeth. It was teeth coiled up, attached to the lower jaw of the fish, and its grasp was the same power roughly to that of a crocodile. Yeah. That's the worst thing I could imagine. So new teeth would form, and in turn these spirals would get longer and curlier. Adult fish would have 4 full rotations in their mouths. Rotations of teeth, that's horrible. 4 rows of teeth, can you imagine? I thought wisdom teeth sucked. Ugh. Number 6, Liopleurodon. Translating to smooth-sided teeth, nice, sounds a little fun, dare I say. The Liopleurodon was anything but a smooth sailor. It was a massive marine reptile from the Mesozoic era, first discovered in the 1800s. It was excavated in France back in 1873. All they got was 3 teeth, and that was enough. But when it was featured in 1999's Walking with Dinosaurs, the BBC series, it was shown as this massive 80-foot-long pliosaur. But they were basing that size off of its skull, which we now know is just much larger than the rest of its body. We got too excited. The thing's literally a bobblehead of a dinosaur, and we're like, yeah, it was bigger, maybe, I don't know. Pliosaurs were the apex predators in Europe. 160 million years ago, most of it was covered in shallow water, so this guy would use its 4 flipper feet to stalk its prey. And researchers believe its snout was a key asset in hunting. He would just sniff for you. They didn't have any gills, so they did need to come up for air every now and then. Again, imagine this big head just appearing out of nowhere and just sniffing you. going back in. That's Loch Ness Monster for sure. Number 5, Megalodon. Of course we have to mention him. Louis Agassiz discovered the Megalodon shark for the first time back in 1843. Yes, the Megalodon was once very real. Louis was a Swiss-born American naturalist and geologist. He discovered some amazing details around glacier activity and extinct fish. Historically, this guy is an OG. He's made quite the impact. He's brilliant. But one of those extinct fish he discovered back in the mid-1800s was the Meg, aka the tooth shark. This was long before Jason Statham was born, so we had no idea what to do with this guy. Megalodons can be found pretty much everywhere in the world except for Antarctica. It favored warm oceans, but similarly to a great white shark, it generates heat when it moves, so the Meg could literally have survived in most places on Earth. It's that big, it would just warm itself up. The largest recorded Megalodon came in at 59 feet, around the same length as a bowling alley. A bowling alley with 7-foot wide jaws and 5 rows of razor sharp teeth. Nice. Nope. Number 4, Elasmosaurus. First discovered in 1868, a military doctor in Kansas found this creature's fossil, passed it along to American paleontologist Edward Cope, who named the plesiosaur. Its neck contained 71 vertebrae. I think I have like 56. I'm pretty close. Not as long, but definitely in the same family, for sure, as this guy. It was super long, which came in handy during those deep dinner dives. When I say long, the Elasmosaurus was around 50 feet in length, so it didn't need to go that close to the surface to get air. He just kind of leaned back and he was good. There's people out there that believe the Loch Ness Monster is just one of these things still swimming around. Honestly, as far as things go, that's probably the best guess. It's probably some sort of version of that, if it exists. Its teeth were sharp enough to eat anything that could fit into its mouth. And just 2 years ago, scientists have unearthed the largest known Elasmosaurus. This thing has been sitting there since the Cretaceous period waiting for us. And I'll be honest, I sure hope we don't find any more, because one water dragon is enough for me. I believe. Great. Stop. Number 3, direwolves. We'll go a little nicer before we get to our last haunting too. If you're from South Westeros, this one might hit close to home. Around 10,000 years ago, pretty recently, direwolves were still a thing. They were pretty common. And if you watch Game of Thrones, you're probably nodding your head right now. It's pretty fun, right? You're getting hyped, or you're getting tissues, either way, spoilers. Canis dirus, aka direwolves, these beasts were a lot bigger than our average gray wolf. It wasn't like a mega wolf with 3 heads or anything, but it still did weigh a lot more. It was eating good as well. Their jaws were much stronger back in the day, so they could chomp their way through pretty much anyone and anything. Believe it or not, direwolves would actually hunt down and eat horses. Yeah, after studying their teeth, that was their go-to snack. But they were always easy to catch, I guess. If you're a wolf, they're no problem. Fast versus fast, I would hate to see that. That'd be so scary. Currently, if you're in the market for seeing 400 direwolf skulls yourself, weird, but here you go. You gotta head to the Page Museum in Southern California. They found hundreds of thousands of skulls in tar pits. So, if you don't believe in these things, here you go, history. Just thousands of skulls ought to change your mind. Number 2, a T-Rex. Tiny arms, massive head, loud scream. Yeah, we've all seen Jurassic Park, or at least one of the 6 movies they have now. And in real life, T-Rexes were probably a lot worse, to be honest. Around 70 million years ago, this big fella would roam what is now North America. But on average, it would be 20 feet tall, 8 tons, stretched a haunting 40 feet long. And yeah, it had tiny arms, and we can roast them for that, sure. But they clearly didn't need them now, did they? No. They're Old English, buddy. They would just headbutt anything. Look at these things. Its jaws are of course the main bread and butter here. 50 to 60 razor sharp serrated teeth around 9 inches long would definitely help it digest 500 pounds of meat in one serving. Henry Fairfield Osborn, the president of the American Museum of Natural History, named the behemoth back in 1905. The name Tyrannosaurus Rex comes from the Greek and Latin words meaning tyrant lizard king. Yep, I'd say he nailed it. Pretty good. Godzilla has a nice ring, but tyrant lizard king? That's pretty groovy. That's way better. I'm gonna change my Xbox name to that. Tyrant Lizard King 69. Number 1, Carnotaurus. Okay, remember that animated Disney movie just called Dinosaur? That movie that had this guy as the main villain? Yeah, that was way too scary for kids. I'm 27 now, I'll say it with full confidence. That scene was too scary. Cried in the theaters, I remember it. I still remember it. That and Ice Age weirdly got me, I don't know. Carnotaurus, they roamed the earth 69 million years ago. They were around the same size as a T-Rex, they were around 29 feet long, but they're nicknamed meat-eating bulls, so they were scarier. They would run at around 25 miles an hour. They're one of the fastest and largest moving theropods to ever live, ever, and its arms were even smaller than a T-Rex. But again, before you laugh, before you go, haha, little arm guy, that didn't matter for the meat-eating bull, because this guy has horns, just like the devil. Yeah, you were gonna say the devil. Yeah, he's oddly similar. The red skin, it's the whole shebang. The Carnotaurus was discovered in 1984 by Jose Bonaparte in Argentina. They've only discovered 1 skeleton of these things, so hopefully there weren't too many of these sprinting around. Hopefully, but again, as that movie depicted, it was a horrible time to live. Thanks Disney. All their dinosaur movies, eh? They're really nice now. The dinosaur movies are nice. Back in the day, we had this guy as the villain. Yeah, we didn't have Arlo, the good dinosaur. Now I'm upset.